Oh my god!
It's a cute.
Wow.
Oh my god.
So cute.
Here's what you.
What's this little guy think he's gonna do with that? Who turned the lights off? Whoa, hey, you're not getting closer to me, are you? I'll have you know, I'm expertly trained in— Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. And recently, I've had the privilege of playing Hollow Knight for the very first time. Well, I say privilege, when realistically, it's been sitting in my library for like 4+ years and my bum ass just hasn't played it yet. So as you probably saw in the thumbnail, I am very late to this. This video is going to be dedicated to all of you that have played Hollow Knight and love it a lot, but might need a refresher course on why you love it so much. Or maybe you're someone who hasn't fully developed their frontal lobe and needs a video essay to form their full opinion on something. Hey, I don't care. Either way, you're watching the video, so it works for me. Who this video isn't for is for people who haven't played Hollow Knight. If this is you, you should be ashamed. But don't worry, I was like you until just recently, but now I'm not, so I have a little ego about it. You can fix this though, by simply going and playing the game. Right now. My only little bit of advice before you leave though, make sure to never stop playing the game when you're lost, because that's just going to kill your motivation to boot the game back up. It sounds a little weird, but the best place to take a break is when you just discover a new area. Trust me bro, this is legal advice. Anyway, now that those bums are gone and the real fans are left, let's talk about Hollow Knight, starting with the gameplay. When you hear people talking about Hollow Knight, the phrase best Metroidvania ever is thrown around a lot. Yeah, they're right. Hollow Knight starts out really timid. You can jump, swing, and that's about it. You can also pogo bounce and stuff, but your average Joe ain't gonna know that. Unless of course they studied before booting up the game for the first time. But your time exploring Forgotten Crossroads and Green Path are pretty chill. Just sort of bumbling around, going down a hallway or two, and being like, oh my god, this little worm is so cute! Oh my god, they have a home! I need to save them all! The oh shit moment really comes when you find a jump that's a little bit too far for you. Then you go and unlock the dash ability, return to that previous jump, and you now have the toolset needed to cross said gap. And the high you get when you do this is addicting. And this loop pretty much repeats for the next 20 hours or so. I think what makes this work so much is the fact that the game is extremely non-linear, meaning you can approach a lot of the game at your own pace as you discover different things, which plays into the fact that pretty much everyone's individual order of progressing the game will be slightly different. And I feel like I mention this every video, but this is one of my favorite things a game can do ever. It just opens up the game to so much more discussion, and it's probably a big reason why the game was so widely popular at the time, and still is, to be honest. It also might just be because our little bug is super cute. A lot of the characters are super cute, like Hornet Silksong herself, but people seem to think she's cute for other reasons. Let's double back to those upgrades for a second, because I think a large reason why they feel so impactful is because they act as both tools to traverse your environment, but also as combat tools as well. Dash is really useful for outspacing attacks, and eventually becomes an iframe dodge that is necessary for the endgame. Your Desolate Dive lets you break floors, as well as becoming a massive hit that is good for when you dodge above some enemies. The same idea sorta applies to charms as well, which are, you know, your sortable upgrades. If we look at Sprint Master for example, it lets you traverse the map faster, but also with some of these bosses, that little extra running speed makes it so you can outspace attacks just barely. I will say, one of my minor complaints with the game, and this is not just with the charm system, but there's some little abilities and things that exist in the game that should just be a part of your base kit. Like needing a charm to tell you where you are on the map. just make it do that anyways. Or for example, when you can set a warp point with your dream nail, it costs 1 dream essence to travel back to it. I get it thematically and lore-wise, but like, if it's only gonna cost 1, why make it cost anything? I know it's only 1, but it's still gonna deter some people from using it because of that, especially since you can just, save and quit to menu to return to your last bench anyways. There's just a few of these little occurrences where it's such a measly inconvenience to use it, but it's such like a mandatory thing to need. Why not just make it free at that point? With that little tidbit out of the way, we can talk about level design now. And oh my freaking god, let me just say, this game has the Souls-like tag for a reason. When I do see the tag Souls-like on just any game, I'm thinking about 2 things: difficult bosses and complex level design. And while Hollow Knight plays fundamentally different to say something like Dark Souls, when you break it down, they're a lot more alike than you'd think. It's like a prostitute working the corner, or an office worker doing 40 hours of overtime. Different in concept, but both overworking themselves for money, so a lot more similar than you might think. And I'll let you decide which one Hollow Knight is in this scenario. There's so many "this door doesn't open from this side" moments, and as I mentioned, so many "this door does open from this side," except you just can't reach the door. Looping around the map does come about a lot more naturally than you'd think, mostly because your map doesn't actually update until you sit at a bench. So deep into an exploration session, you're probably not checking where you are relatively in the world, because there's no real point. Not only is this world so much bigger than you'd expect, but each individual zone, and even each individual room to be honest, is really delicately handcrafted. Almost everything has a reason or purpose for being there, down to even the enemy placements. Look at this, here's a jump to a new area that clearly needs you to be able to double jump. But look, there's a little guy here mining crystals, but that's not his only purpose. He can throw pickaxes at you that you can then pogo up, skipping the need for a double jump. This is just one example, but there's so many of these little moments where the level design has a clear path to take, but also there'll be something there like, I wonder if I can cheese this by doing that. And guess what? You probably can. I also really like that to unlock some new areas, you not only need the ability unlocked, but also the skill to complete a hard platforming challenge. It's a nice change of pace from the boss fights, and makes the new area you unlock feel so much more rewarding, as it gets you better at the game. And let me tell you, if you want to get the real ending, you're gonna need those platforming skills to be honed. This area, by the way, super fun. Really difficult. It's also where I found out you can crystal dash on walls, which I don't think the game ever told me. It's also bullshit, because I got to this point, thought going down was a shortcut, and going forward was the, way forward. So I dropped down, got shortcut, rested, made my way all the way back, and guess what? It was a soul generator. Not my proudest moment, I'll tell you that. This world is full of stuff as rewards as well. So many charms and upgrades, as well as little trinkets and whatnot that you then have to find other stuff to use it on, and this just helps fill out the world, both mechanically and lore-wise. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that the level design is magnificent, both in the overall world layout, but also in each individual room, and I can't stress how important having both is. Good Metroidvanias will have one, great ones will have both, and Hollow Knight, pretty great. Now to talk about boss design. If level design is the yin, this is the yang. If level design is the sock, this is the shoe. If level design is the prostitute, this is the office worker doing overtime. And bosses here are pretty good. The early game difficulty curve is pretty well rounded, as bosses slowly introduce more and more mechanics, like needing to jump attacks, dash away, pogo on top, stuff like that. This curve definitely falls a little bit flat in the mid game though. Since there's so many directions the player can take, all the bosses need to be balanced around the same sort of power level. So you're pretty much bound to stumble upon a handful of bosses that you just first try because of that. I will say though, the final few bosses, both the story ones and the rematch ones, where you have your entire arsenal of tools available, are extremely fun. Being able to iframe through attacks makes the flow of combat a lot faster, and in my opinion, more fun. This is just preference though, because I think I would get the argument if someone said iframes make the fight worse, because you could just dodge attacks really easily and not use the other mechanics. And I think this would be the case if the iframe dash wasn't on a cooldown, because then you still have to use the other mechanics at some point. Shocked that this game, which, has some of the most intricate game design I've seen, has thought about even the little things. Now there's one more thing I want to talk about gameplay, possibly the thing that impressed me the most, that I feel like a lot of people will miss when they talk about Hollow Knight, and it is gonna be talked about later. Listen guys, I'm playing the YouTube game here, viewer retention is very important, or so I've been told. So just keep watching the funny little videos video, and eventually we'll get back to this. But for now, let's move on to the aesthetics. The more I talk about this game, the more it becomes clear why this game is really cool. Because not only is the gameplay crafted with love, so is everything aesthetically. It's at this point I need to remind everyone that this is an indie game with an incredibly small team. So the fact that this game is this good is even more impressive. Let's start with looking at the music. This is easily a game that could have had very little music and just let the world and environment speak for themselves. Instead, each zone has its own OST that aren't just good, not great, but most of the time are just beautiful. Moments like entering the City of Tears for the first time are so moving. Like, I could have cried at this scene, genuinely. They also fiddle with how the music is played, music crescendoing, and also the lack of it at times. It's easy to say the music in Hollow Knight is good, because it is. Fantastic, actually, but it's how it's played at times that elevate moments even more. Let's look at the story next, and this is a world absolutely full of lore. Hallownest has secrets everywhere, and to be honest, while I do like everything here, it is a little bit confusing. I'm not the biggest fan of feeling like I need to watch an hour 30 lore video straight after beating the game. What I am a massive fan of though are all the NPCs in the game. Genuinely got so giddy whenever I saw one of these guys pop up. Such incredible character designs in every single aspect, which is very impressive since everyone is just bugs. And pretty similar bugs as well, many just being, beetles and whatnot. Majority of these NPCs have quest lines as well though, and this is perhaps the most Souls-likey thing here, as these are very FromSoft coded. Having to talk to them in one place, then find them at another corner of the map, then, wait 24 hours in real life, jump through the pit of hell, and then read a thesis on their lore. And make sure you're doing all of this before hitting an invisible checkpoint, because if not, they're just gonna kneel over and die. While I'm not the biggest fan of this sort of design, you can't deny that finding them casually in the world rather than just following a waypoint is a lot more satisfying. And to be honest, sharing a final moment with Quirrell was something very special. I do also get completely why people are so hyped for Silksong now. Hornet is definitely my favorite character. Made me fall in love with her even more. But, not like that. It's at this point I should mention that I'm pretty sure that all the assets and animations for this game are hand-drawn, like the old school method. And again, like a 3-person team, I bring this up again because not only does this game look good, it's varied. Each area has such a specific color palette that helps them stand apart from each other. Even if like 3 or 4 of them consist of colors like gray, light gray, dark gray, and gray again. Still, they adhere to these colors no matter what. Even walking between 2 different areas shifts the hue of everything to match. On a real though, Hallownest is big, but it's not massive. However, the care put into making each area stand out so much on its own, from the colors to the music, makes the world seem so much larger. This whole video so far has been pretty much exclusively gushing about how good Hollow Knight is, but I genuinely have so few complaints, and the ones I do have, you can sort of argue against. Like, do I think the start of the game is pretty slow? Definitely, but that might be done on purpose to help guide players. Do I think most of the bosses are too easy? Also true, but this world can be explored in so many different ways, I can't assume other people would be as geared up as me at certain points, so they might struggle in places I didn't, and vice versa. It really is one of those games where everyone says it's so good, and you think surely it can't be that good, and then you play it and it was really that good. It's like playing Elden Ring or Viva Pinata for the first time, where the first playthrough is so magical and memorable, and you just sit there at the credits like, damn. Do you guys remember like 5 minutes ago where I had something to discuss with the class, but it needed to wait? Well, congratulations, you made it. You now get to know what impressed me the most in this game, that I feel went under the radar for a lot of people, and that thing being, drumroll please, the enemy variety. And no, not the bosses, just the regular basic enemies across all of Hallownest. I was constantly blown away with this, as in every single area, the game managed to introduce new enemies with not only unique designs, but also introducing new unique mechanics, which continued across the entire playthrough. Dive bombs, suicide bats, indestructible worms that eventually become platforms to pogo on, a maggot that splits into 2 more enemies on defeat, goop-infested flies from the first area, bees that do their best attempt to pierce the heavens. Like, I was just constantly surprised that every single area I entered, it managed to have brand new enemies every single time. It really was the biggest factor that made the game never feel repetitive. Like, yeah, the level design and world exploration is crazy good, but there definitely would have been some fatigue if I was just fighting the same beetles over and over again. It's a fact that with all these varied enemies, there's very little repeat between zones. You see this little hopper enemy, you can only find him in Kingdom's Edge. And if that wasn't enough, since these enemies are mostly exclusive to areas, these environments are actually designed around the enemies. It's such an underrated part of the game that would be so noticeable if it was bad. But I want to make sure to point it out so the developers get the praise they deserve, which, I'm sure they really need right now. And with that, I welcome you all to the end of the video. This is the bit where you click off before I get the chance to shield myself out and guilt you all into subscribing. Alright, now that those suckers are gone, me and you, we can have a quick chat. Hollow Knight was really fun, and I can confidently say, playing it for 24 minutes in 2021 and then taking a 4-year break, it was definitely a mistake, I'll give you that. I'm now pretty excited to play Silksong though, as I've only heard good things. But also, you guys let me know what Metroidvanias you like, and who knows, I might just make a video on it. Alright, see you guys in the next one, bye bye!